So living on Dartmoor, we've got a landscape completely covered with granite. Particularly at night, there's a real sense of this energy under the ground, way down into the middle of the earth, like there's as much a presence of something high up into the sky. So they lit fires is much about this heat energy in the earth, and then the green surrounding it is I suppose something about, well, the green energy that is the kind of photosynthesis cycle of all the pictures I used to make with plants. I decided I wanted to develop a way of working directly with a beam of light, remove the intermediary of the plant, so I'm left with a beam of light, a piece of light sensitive paper, and I have to find something else to work with in the space. In the case of the they lit fires, the red sphere is made by having a glass vessel which is filled with water. So it's this meeting of red and green, which is a very powerful colour combination in abstraction. But it's equally powerful for me in the way that when I walk on the moor, we have lots of ancient holly trees. So these holly trees, green leaves with the red berries on, just like basically fingerprints of red over the tree is a really powerful thing living here. All of the plants, which I've made pictures with, are about the fact that I and the plants are all breathing the same air, and the plants allow me to live, and depending on how I behave, I allow the plants to live. And these are all really, this is what living a life like this is about. It's just day-to-day life, but it's full of what is the point of life, and the fragility of it, and it's just a very wonderful, privileged life to lead, where you just do simple things and it presents you with purpose and reverence to living in this life, but also living it in a responsible way, and being grateful and wanting to share it with other people through making pictures. Yeah. I was beguiled and I was hypnotized by what happened in the darkroom. It was magic. I think I worked in a darkroom in a tradition which basically comes from the beginning of photography. It was a primitive space. It was never really properly set up or equipped. It was improvised. I would make do and mend with materials. I'd take all kinds of risks in the darkroom. And at some point, I suppose, probably I began to be aware that probably I was imbibing far too much of this chemistry, just like people in other industries were doing. And health and safety was not a developed concept, particularly if you didn't work in an organised work situation. And I hit this wonderful period where I was making what became the last abstract colour pictures, the colour filled pictures, and they were just so solid and consistent and pure. So I would be working very long time processing in a way that I wouldn't have done in the past. So all of that was going on, and then, such is life. I was having various health checks, and I found out that I think it was like the latter part of November, I was told I had bladder cancer. And when I went through the first kind of operation I had a discussion with the surgeons about the sebachrome chemistry. And I remember the following day, some young, eager junior doctor rushed in and said to me, I've been on the computer and so on. Yes, there's all this benzidine in the sebachrome chemistry. It's got a deep history of people who've worked in the sebachrome industry, etc., etc. I said, yeah. I said, exactly. That's what I expected. And I came to the studio and I had 6 pieces of paper I'd put an image on, and I had the chemistry mixed because all that had happened unexpectedly. And I processed those pictures, and when I processed the 5th sheet, I left the studio, walked out of the darkroom, and I knew that was it. The darkroom was closed.